Well, welcome everyone to Real Balance Global Wellness Services webinars. And we want to let you know that Real Balance Global Wellness Services is a leading provider of health and wellness coach training. We've trained thousands of health and wellness coaches all over the world. We are fully approved by the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching, which I was a founding member of and happy to be a board member emeritus now. We're also fully approved by the International Coach Federation, not just for continuing education, but for approved coach-specific training hours. So our webinars are brought to you once a month, and they are archived at realbalance.com in the Wellness Resources section. So if you have friends that were unable to attend this webinar, they can easily access it. It'll be posted within a couple days, and they'll be able to view it there on our website. So the way this works, you're muted upon entry, and your comments and questions we really want to encourage. So go ahead and use the chat function at any time to put in some questions and comments. We'll get to those possibly throughout the webinar, but more likely mostly toward the end of the webinar, where we'll set aside a portion of the time just for your participation, your questions and comments and so forth. Okay, well, this is a little bit of a different interview type format today. Instead of me interviewing somebody, I'm going to have one of the best coaches in the entire planet interview me. And really, the opportunity here is to share with you about my new book. Our interviewer is Master Coach Dr. Pat Williams, a longtime friend of mine. And in order to give him his due, welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Michael.
I'm actually going to read his entire bio, which is not that long. It's a brief one, but it really is packed with a lot of stuff that I think needs to be honored and recognized. So Pat is a psychologist who's turned executive coach. He's worked with companies such as Hewlett-Packard, IBM, Kodak, and so forth. He's also a philanthropist and educator, a lifelong growth seeker, adventurer, and explorer. He's known as the Indiana Jones of the interior. And I think what we mean there is the interior here.
Of the humanness, yes, right, exactly.
So after teaching at Coach University, which is really one of the very earliest coach training programs ever, Pat launched his own international coach training school to train therapists and helping professionals in the coaching approach. The Institute for Life Coach Training, ILCT, was the 12th coach training school to be recognized by the ICF. It continues to be helping professionals' first choice for coach training. A passionate advocate for coaching professions' ongoing growth and success, in 2018, Pat was one of the first to be inducted into the ICF's Circle of Distinction. This is the latest of many awards that recognize his contributions to the coaching profession. His most recent book, Getting Naked, Emotional Transparency at the Right Time and the Right Place with the Right Person, is Pat's first teaching memoir and inspiration for this program, Conscious Living Mastery. Pat is a past board and founding member of the ICF, which is quite notable, a past president of the Association for Coach Training Organizations, an honorary VP of the Association of Coaching Psychology, and a founding member of Harvard University's Institute of Coaching. He also serves as the Forbes Coaching Council, on the Forbes Coaching Council, and was awarded the first Global Visionary Fellowship by the Foundation of Coaching for his Coaching the Global Village initiative. It took coaching methodologies and to developing countries, as well as the nonprofit and non-governmental organizations that serve them. So this fellow is a dear friend of mine, but he's also somebody that I was happy to get his feedback on the book that I wrote. And let me just introduce that to you. I want to let you know that I have received my author's copy, and very excited about that. And it will be available and in stock very soon through my publisher, Whole Person Associates. So if you go to wholepersonassociates.com and just search into my name, you'll find it there. Or you can take a picture of the URL that's up on the screen right now. And I've been told that it'll be also available, of course, on Amazon and everything else very soon. The book has a wonderful foreword by Dr. Meg Jordan, and it's got a format that I'm really kind of happy about. But let's get Pat involved here and just kind of get started with maybe what all of you want to know about this book.
Yeah, I'm happy, Michael. I'm thrilled that you invited me. And when I look at your cover, it's interesting because on one of my coaching books, I have a compass, and on my wall now I have a compass when I list my life vision. Because we are about helping people find their true north. In a sense, you're more of a mountaineer than I am, but I've done my share of hiking and outward bound experiences, and a compass is essential.
Yeah.
Or somebody who knows where you're going. But that's what a coach is somebody who doesn't know where you're going, but they're going to be there to kind of be a guide on the side, if you will. And I've known you since you incorporated the word wellness way back when holistic health was kind of the moniker. It didn't mean much. It was doctors who maybe looked at what today is called integrative medicine, but you've always embraced the concept of wellness for decades. We both came from psychology, but I don't think we wanted to be psychologists. We didn't want to embrace pathology. We wanted to embrace wellness, and coaching became the avenue for that. So when you think of your new book, and I did have the pleasure of reading the transcript, and it is masterful book on masterful health and wellness coaching. What did you mean by the title? How might that deepen a coach's craft, somebody who's in the health and wellness industry?
Well, the whole idea of deepening your craft really came to me when I saw, after years of training coaches in health and wellness, that the field had just mushroomed and grown tremendously. And yet a lot of it was being done at kind of a basic level, a competency level. You know how we always talk about the ICF core competencies, and we want our coaches to be competent. And I often will joke around and say, okay, would you rather go to a competent dentist or to a proficient dentist? Or would you rather go to a masterful dentist? It's your mouth, it's your teeth. What would you prefer? So clearly, the process of coaching and the way that we do it, I felt needed to broaden, to deepen. A lot of it was being done kind of formulistic with some companies, minimizing the amount of time they were working with people. It was pretty much set up to focus on goal setting, often without adequate exploration, accountability and support, and so forth, which was all good, but there's so much more to it. And what I wanted to do was help people see it, number one, as a craft, as the combination of art and science, and think of themselves as a craftsperson.
Yeah.
How do I want to become not just somebody that's adequate at this job?
Yeah, not an apprentice, but a craftsman.
Yeah. Right. Taking it up to kind of a higher level.
Well, I love the concept you've got about deepening, because that seems to be a meme that's floating through coaching today. The distinction between transactional coaching and transformational. Transactional, especially in health and wellness, you can help somebody do their exercise regime or the diet regime or eating smart. But transformational is, how does the person need to change, or will they change because of coaching?
Right.
And then the other goals will happen. So that leads into the concept of, when we work with clients in whatever field, and health and wellness is a specialty or a niche, we have to, or we should, get into what is their vision? Where do they want to take this? Where do they want to go? Which means they don't know. We're going on a trail that nobody's been on before, or they haven't been on before. We're looking into around the corner or around the next bend. So what was your vision when you started to write this book? Because you've had a couple other books, but this book is oh man, what would I call it? Your masterful, not a primer, but this is your living legacy, really. What was your vision and how did it come to reality for you?
Yeah, I guess something that I think most everybody that gets attracted to the helping professions wants to share.
Yeah.
They want to share what they know, what they've learned. And I think the combination of over 25 years of clinical experience as a psychologist and being a coach since 1996, I think that's when I got my first coach training. ICF was founded in 1995. You
Right.
know, you were a couple of years ahead of that, even getting the ICF off the ground. But I got in on it early enough to learn the difference between coaching and therapy.
Right.
And but what I've done is taken the depth that whole lifetime of experience of working with people has taught me and shown me, combined it with all the behavioral change theories that we have, and done my best to make them really accessible and applicable. So,
Mm.
I always say the theory helps you think on your feet, you know,
I like that. Yeah.
yeah. So I wanted to share all that, and I did want to kind of leave a legacy, so to speak. Um, I wanted the profession to operate at a higher level. Now, there's always going to be a place for, the basic services that reach thousands of people that maybe just have a few sessions and minimal goals, but help people in some way.
Yeah. Sure.
There's always going to be a place for that. But I think what we encounter in health and wellness is the individual who needs more than just a good program at their workplace, who needs maybe a community that can help them to be healthy and well and grow. But often the barriers that are in the way are what really require a guide to help you make your way through that kind of terrain, you know,
Yeah.
whether it's a jungle or a mountain or
There
whatever
you
it
go.
is, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful metaphor. And I think some other terms that come to mind when I talk to people about this is because health and wellness, and you're at the forefront of this, is booming. Health and wellness coaching
Mhm.
services. And when I think of that, excuse me, that concept, it's like vital aging or optimal living. Excuse me, I'm not really choking. I'm just, I took a drink of water and it made me choke.
Mhm.
Um, the concept of living purposely beyond mediocrity. What does your book address about that?
Yeah, well, the way the book's laid out, I've got three real distinct parts. Um, their first part is entitled Transformation.
There you go.
Chapters 1 and 2 are about life transformation. It's about the transformation of your client, and it's about the transformation of the coach as they grow professionally.
Yes.
Then part 2 is what I call How to Be, just that simple. And chapters 3, 4, and 5 are about the being and the doing of coaching, and how the way we are with people, that elusive thing that everybody tries to define that we call coaching presence,
Right.
and the facilitative conditions that really allow people to grow. That's what we're talking about here. But then in part 3, I call that simply what to do. And there we have chapters 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, with chapter 10 focusing on coaching clients with health challenges. Um, so, what I'm really looking at here is helping people to, when they coach someone, even if that person is really struggling, to kind of hold a vision for them to begin with of what's possible.
Yeah. Bingo.
I mean, I think something that you and everybody in coaching has always done has said, you know, we've got to take a look, not just what's wrong and how can we fix it, but what's possible, what could be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
And
use terms like what wants to emerge. And I love that you talk about the being of the person, because that's some of the nuances that the ICF and other coaching agencies now are saying. We can help people with their doing, but it's
Mhm.
really who they are, who they want to be, who they need to
Right,
become for this to happen. So you've
exactly.
said that brilliantly in that first part of the book.
Well, you know, one of the things that I got kind of turned on by was the way that an author by the name of Chip Conley, who wrote a book called Peak, was applying the theories of Abraham Maslow to the business world.
Uh,
And then I saw how this transferred over to the coaching world, especially, well, really any kind of coaching services, where essentially there's a level that is equivalent to the base level on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where it's just survival, it's just basic satisfaction. I went and coached with Michael and I wanted to lose weight. And yeah, he helped me lose weight. Okay, I'm satisfied. Okay, that's great. But then there's a higher level where it's like, well, I was kind of hoping that maybe in addition to doing that, I could maybe improve the way that I sleep and the way I manage my stress.
mm,
And I was kind of hoping for that. And, he came through, and I was able to do that. So now I think he's a great coach and, I'm going to go back to him or that kind of thing. But
yeah.
what if I finished up my coaching with Michael or Ellen or Jennifer or Dana or Barbara, anybody here, and I ended up saying, I'm a whole new person now. I care about myself. I care about my health and wellness. I know what that is. I know how the way that I behave affects that. And I'm conscious of it every day. I'm a whole new person now. Now that's what we want to shoot for.
Yeah.
That's what we want to be open to the possibility of.
Yep, that's a good what if. That's the transformative part. So you mentioned a couple times the word art and science, and years ago the ICF and other entities started coming with the art and science of coaching, because let me just say psychotherapy was meant to be an art, and it embraced the medical field, and it kind of became more medical than artful. And I
Mhm.
think that's why coaching evolved. So can you say a little bit about how those of us in the helping professions, which is more than therapists, it can be nutritionists and counselors and physical therapy, it can be all kinds of people in the helping professions. We talk about the art and the science.
Right.
How did you honor and integrate both of those concepts in your book?
Yeah. And well, first of all, I've always felt that both really needed to have their due. What we have seen is a big trend that I think happens in any nascent profession, young
Yeah.
emerging profession, where, matter of fact, even when I was in psychology as an undergrad, I remember professors talking about how some psychologists were insecure, they had science envy. They wanted to be more like the hard sciences. But of course, we're dealing with real live human beings. That's
Right.
all we get to work with, right? So it's not the same. But what it meant was we really embraced the idea that everything had to be evidence based.
Yeah.
That term has been wore out so badly in the last 10 years. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Uh, but yet, on the one hand, we need it because we're trying to say, hey, we really have a profession here that's legitimate, that really works, and what we're doing is based on real behavioral science. So we've embraced that. We've done studies. Thank God now we have hundreds of studies that
Yeah.
say that health and wellness coaching really works. That's terrific. And one of the things that I did, much more so than my first book, is I did a lot of digging and a lot of research to back up what I was saying.
Hmm.
Each chapter has a big old bibliography on it.
Yep.
There's lots of footnotes and all that kind of thing. If you want to dig into it further, it's there for you. But on the other hand, it really is an art.
Yeah.
When I was an undergrad, a very fortuitous thing happened. Bowling Green State University, I sig a Zumba, Zumba, Zumba. uh, I was in the library. Remember back in the days when you actually went into the
Went to a
library?
library. Yeah. Had a library card.
Yeah. And I'm walking in the stacks, looking at the psychological journals. And, they're all pretty heavy duty technical things. But then I saw this one called Voices, the Art and Science of Psychotherapy.
Oh.
And I thought, whoa, let me grab that and take a look at it. And what it was about was really the art of psychotherapy,
Huh.
the how to be that we keep talking about.
Yeah.
It was about case studies and examples and people using a lot of different theoretical approaches, but they were really trying to convey that there is a way of being with your client that makes all the difference in the world. And you have to be flexible enough to do what we now call in coaching, dancing in the moment, right? So,
well, oh, I'm sorry.
no, that really impressed me.
Yeah. So I think that brings me to the point that the people listening to this now or in the future, there's umpteen thousand researches on the fact that what is the determining factor in therapy that leads to progress, and it's now bled into coaching, is the relationship between the coach and the client. It's about the relationship, the trust, the intimacy, the confidentiality, the presence, all the things that show up in competencies today. But how do you do that? Otherwise, we could ask Alexa or Siri to coach us, right? We need some human relating in the moment. And earlier you talked about theories. I forget, you mentioned the theories of this and theories of that. What was your quote about theory? That it's
it helps you think on your feet.
Yeah, well, good. But coaching nowadays is applied theory. So we have all these theories, but how do we apply that? Some of that comes from research, some of it comes from our own experience. Can you talk a little bit about how you use evidence of research and just dancing in the moment together?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, something that I really wanted to do. I've always loved theory and been fascinated by it. I was really into that when I was in my doctoral program and all.
Yeah.
And what I did in this book, for a couple reasons. One, an extremely practical reason, and that's that many of our students are pursuing certification through the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching. They're going to be taking a big, tough national exam, and that exam is going to have behavioral change theory in it. So they better understand it. So what I did was I really went after all the major behavioral change theories, and I integrated them into the different chapters. And probably the one that I am most proud of is the chapter that I included a very deep dive into the trans-theoretical model of change, the stages of change, the work of James and Janice Prochaska. And I've actually become good friends with them, and they were kind enough to actually edit that chapter for me. So you're going to get it straight from the source when it comes to that. I also took a deep dive into motivational interviewing and saw the usefulness of that in coaching. And I employed the help of a friend, Dr. Adam Archega at Loma Linda University, who's taught motivational interviewing for years, and he edited that chapter with me. And I go through all the major, behavioral change theories, but I show how to then really apply them. So it isn't just, so theoretical. What does it really mean? How does that really translate? And what's important and what isn't? Like, for example, motivational interviewing, if you really dig in and read the chapter, all the chapters in the motivational interviewing third edition, they will come right out and tell you, you don't need to memorize all these names of all these reflections that we're coming up with. Just do it and know that you've got all these options. But on the other hand, you better have them memorized for that exam.
Yeah, right, right. Well, it speaks to the same thing. I mean, I'm an assessor and a mentor for the ICF for those going for not MCC, but ACC or PCC.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it's kind of like when you did driver's ed. You had to know everything about the car, the manual, how it worked, the driver's ed stuff, and we were all like overly paranoid and cautious. And now we just drive, not unconsciously, but
Right.
consciously competent.
Yes.
Um, the theory is great, the studies are great, but eventually put down the manual and just show up and be you and coach the
Mm.
person to be them,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And I think your book speaks to that. You've got all the research, all the data. You were smart enough to include, or maybe you were smart enough to befriend other theorists and well-known people in the field, because that gives both of you added credibility.
Mm.
You didn't just make this stuff up. You've got the
Right.
background for it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, when you're saying all that, Pat, what it reminds me of, you know, you're kind of describing how you end up coaching.
Yeah.
If you take a look at really masterful coaches in action, and I remember years ago going to the ICF conferences, and they would have demos by different coaches. And you know, there were some that were, you know, better than others. There were
Yeah.
some that were still trying to be too much of a business consultant, but then there were some that were just like, wow,
Yeah.
how did she or he do that? You know,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And you're just like in awe at the ease with which they coach and the way they have fun with it. You know, a good example is if you've ever watched a video of Pat Williams coaching. You know, just to polish your apple a little bit here. I mean, really, when you coach, you're spontaneous. Humor comes in naturally, yet you're really focused. You're very lively. You're very engaged, and yet you're working with your client in a way where you're very sensitive to what's going on with them. You know, you're not there just to show off. You're there to listen and to really take in what they're saying and work with that, feed it back to them, and let them do the work. I mean, that's really, you know, the key that I keep putting across here in the book is how can you facilitate your client? How can you infect them with curiosity about their own life
Right.
and
You know,
get,
as you mentioned that, when I think back to when I started coaching executives at Hewlett Packard and IBM and all that back then, I basically did the same thing if they'd come to my psychology office, but they didn't want, most of the leaders were men. I did the same thing in their office that I would have as a psychologist. I just charged twice as much and showed up in a coat and tie. Um, but what's changed now is the ICF and the EMCC in Europe and others have evolved to the point, and your wellness certification, which kudos to you. I mean, my God, that has become a hallmark of competency assessment and credibility. What goes into all that is coaching is coaching is coaching, but we all might do it uniquely.
Mhm, right.
And I, with my mentor groups, have to learn, shut up, ask the question and shut up.
Right.
Let
Right.
the client sit for a while. Let the client think.
Yeah.
Don't, I mean, that's my constant, that and stacking questions, because I think on
Yeah.
my feet. I might ask 2 or 3 questions at once, and then I'll say, wait, let me erase that. Here's what I want to ask you. So
Boom.
how does that show up in wellness coaching?
Yeah. You know, the very same way. Uh, One of the things that I just wrote a blog called Coach Like Hemingway.
I saw that. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, succinct, confident, and so forth. And I
Yeah.
make a big distinction. Don't be like Hemingway, just
Right.
coach like the way he wrote. But what we're looking at there really is what you're saying. When a coach is not confident, when they're maybe just starting out, they will think out loud with their client. They'll ask a question. They'll be insecure about their question. They think, oh, I've got to clarify that even before the client answers it. So I'll ask my clarifying question number 2 here.
Yeah.
And then I might even ask my clarifying question number 3 as I keep thinking about it. And now my poor client has 3 questions to answer. Whereas the masterful coach is going to say, so What held you back?
Right.
Boom, quiet. You know what? If your client needs clarification, they'll let you know.
Right.
They'll say, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And then you can clarify.
Yeah.
But the power when you just say, well, boom, and it lands, and they've got to really think, that is what really gets somewhere.
Yeah. And you don't have to spend time saying, well, what I heard you say was, and then repeat to the client. They know, I mean, they heard themselves say it. So if you say, well, so what do you learn from that?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's next?
Yeah.
And in terms of wellness and health and wellness, it's relative to the person. You might be coaching somebody who's got a medical diagnosis of diabetes or something else, but they can be a relative wellness given their circumstances,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, the reality is the vast majority of clients that health and wellness coaches work with already have some kind of health challenge. Either at a warning stage, you know, hyperlipidemia, high blood pressure, or whatever, or maybe it is the person with full-blown diagnosis of a chronic illness
Yeah.
or multiple chronic illnesses. And yet, you may be, as that person's coach, you may be the first person who has come across in a way that is not just remedial, that is not just what's wrong and how can we fix it, but really holds the vision for how can you actually live your best life possible.
Right.
And what would that look like?
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah. A
that,
lot of, when you started this conversation and your book is about the being, if you think of the pyramid, I'll just make one here.
Mhm.
The bottom part is doing and having, right? People come to coaching because they want to do something different, have something different, or get rid of something, but the top part is being.
Mhm.
Our coaching needs to get to the uniqueness of that person. You and I believe everybody has a unique purpose. We believe that,
Mhm.
right? Or maybe two or three purposes. How is that showing up? How does that relate to their lifestyle, which
Oh,
is a term you use a lot in your books? It's not about following a diet and doing it. It's about lifestyle. Can you talk about that a little bit?
yeah, yeah. You know, wellness is a holistic concept. It really is. And lifestyle embraces all aspects of your life, of your way of living. It's not just physical, it's not just diet and exercise. It's interpersonal relations, or, you know, the struggle with those or lack thereof. It's financial wellness. It's, you know, looking at your life 360 degrees, which is the model that, you know, we've developed. And, you know, what we're doing is we're being a unique coach working with a unique individual, but we are following methodology of behavioral change that is science-based,
Right.
that really does work with everybody. And the challenge, and I think this is what takes things deeper, and the more masterful coach is able to do that. They're able to honor the uniqueness in them. They're able to be their own unique coach. Um, your style, my style, are different styles, and they're both effective.
Right.
You know,
And
uh,
and different clients will be attracted to us for that.
right, right.
I noticed the first three coaches I hired way back in the day, and I didn't do this consciously, but I hired coaches who were more introverted and more quiet and more deep listeners. Well, if there were two of me on the phone, I would never, so I would talk and talk and talk, and then I'd hear this silence. I go, "Are you still there?" They go, "Yeah, just listening."
Right,
And
right.
I needed that because
Yeah.
I needed a place to think out loud, which
Mhm.
here's how I define coaching, and I think it relates to you. You can comment on this. Coaching is that where we give the client a space to think out loud, say things they've not said, and dream out loud with a committed listener. You
Mhm.
can do that with yourself all day long, but what happens when a coach is listening?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What's different about that?
Yeah. Well, you know, when you have to put it into words and communicate to another person, you engage a different part of your brain
Yes,
than if
bingo.
you're just sitting around thinking, oh, you know, thinking about, you know, how I need to change things. When you write it down, you engage a different part of your brain. And that's another improvement and another asset. But that third way, that interpersonal conversation, that allows you to think of it in whole new ways and make connections you never
Right.
would have made before.
Right.
And when you have someone who is really good at keeping you focused, which is a huge part of coaching, our clients tend to, we've all got these gigantic brains, that are both a blessing and a curse. And we can ramble and we can go off on tangents. But when somebody is just simply paraphrasing what we're saying, that simple tool that we use, that simple skill in coaching, it helps condense down what we're saying. It
Right.
helps us get to the essence of what we're saying, and we get further along on the path.
Yep.
So all the coaching skills, which I go into quite in detail in that how to do part, are really valuable. When I've seen coaches that, especially coaches that maybe get some training and they think they're really cool now, and they think that the simple skills of reflection and paraphrasing and so forth are like that's beginner stuff. I'm just going to ask powerful questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Clients ramble and it's not good.
you mentioned a couple of things that people should know about, and I know you mentioned some in your book. There's lots of research that we talked on earlier, and in your home state of Ohio, Richard Boyatzis at Weatherhead Institute at Cleveland, I think it's Cleveland Clinic or whatever, or no, it's Case Western.
Oh, okay.
They're doing lots of research on what happens to a coaching client when they get all these things on their brain. The different part of the brain lights up.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
it's good to know, but I'm not going to have my clients put on the
of course.
neuro pads.
Yeah,
But
right.
it's good for us to know that when we're relating to a client, the very space that we're creating, whether it's in person, on Zoom, or by phone, is changing their awareness, their choices, and their creation of their future.
Mm.
How can you speak to that in terms of health and wellness coaching?
Well, you were getting on the topic. We almost got there about meaning and purpose earlier.
Yes. Yes.
And that is something that it's really fascinating how much that is tied into health and wellness. There's been a ton of research that's been accumulated by University of Michigan researcher Vic Strecker, Strecher, and I go over a good bit of that in the book, where they have found that when people have a greater sense of meaning and purpose, a greater ability to really enumerate their values, they're healthier.
Yes.
And when they aren't able to do that, they have higher rates of all the chronic illnesses and everything you can imagine. There's a tremendous connection between the two. And what I've often seen, before I ever came across that, it seemed like my clients that had a good sense of meaning and purpose, they had motivation to be healthy and well.
Yeah.
And when they weren't in touch with that, it was like, well, why bother? Why put all this energy and effort into, trying to be healthy and better and blah, 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 actualize my potential or whatever. They'd kind of given up on those things. But when they were driving towards something, when something gave meaning and purpose in their life, okay, let's fire up the tank and let's fill up the tank and get going down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good metaphor. I like that. Well, you also mentioned when I read your transcript of something, you said that you have had over 10,000 contributors to your book. And I'm curious if you can share what you mean by that. I think I know what you mean by that, but what did you mean? 10,000 contributors.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's over 11 now. I'm not sure, but it's really all that I have learned from my students. And, Real Balance Global Wellness Services has trained over 10,000 health and wellness coaches all around the world. And I've listened to hundreds of recordings of people doing their coaching. I've read hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of case studies, and mentored hundreds of clients, students, and worked with them on their skills and their awareness and their presence and everything. And what I found was they really taught me what coaches need to learn. They really taught me what is challenging and more difficult. They taught me the repetitive problems that coaches seem to, keep on doing and have trouble shifting. They really helped me identify what are the kind of the key elements in learning how to be a really great coach.
Yeah, that's who we
And so,
learn from.
yeah, so that's really a lot of how this book came about. Was geez, I would love to see coaches learn to do this better. And I would love to see coaches do this better. And a lot of that, was what I drew upon to really underscore the important stuff that coaches need to know.
Well, I've heard you talk about the fact that you were writing this book for the last year and a half, and when I saw the copy, I had no idea. You went for the big book, not for the little book, and it's got a wealth of information. It would be one that I would keep on my shelf and refer to. I mean, I really mean that sincerely. I was just not just impressed. I was astounded
Mhm.
by what you came up with and how you didn't make it just a simple little procedural book. So I want people to know that. So what do you here's my coaching question to you. So now what? There's a good coaching question, right? So now what, Michael?
Yeah. Well, after 412 pages, maybe it's um, maybe it's trout fishing for a while. I don't know.
But now what with the book? What do you want to
Yeah.
happen now
Yeah.
that that's out there? What do you want to happen? Yeah, your life. Yeah, you can relax a little bit, right? But what do you want the book to be a catalyst for?
I would love to just have it be a catalyst to take health and wellness coaching to a higher level.
Yeah.
To have health and wellness coaching um, steer away from being over medicalized.
Yes.
I think that's really a key. There's a real tendency to do that. We are not a medical profession. We are not providing treatment. And there has to be an incredible distinction between the two, which I make real clear in the book. But we need to go beyond just goal setting and support.
Yeah. Yep.
We need to be able to meet our clients' needs in a masterful way. And not everybody's going to become a masterful coach, but we can aim for that. We can become a more proficient coach. There's steps along the way. George Leonard has a wonderful book called Mastery. And he talks about the mastery curve and how it's kind of this, you go up a little bit and then you level off at a plateau.
Uh-huh.
And then you go up a little bit and you level off at a plateau. It isn't just this, I'm constantly getting better, 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 and I'd really love to see a lot of universities that are providing coach training programs now embrace this book to provide a second class, not just that certification class, that basic foundation class, but the advanced class, so that people are taking it into deeper discussions,
Yeah.
are working on things that really challenge them more. They are practicing the difficult pieces of their coaching so that they get better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned George Leonard's book, because I did a course years ago on mastery in life, not mastery in coaching. And
Yeah.
I had the privilege of learning from George Leonard at Estes Park, Colorado in 1975, I think, at the Association of Humanistic Psychology conference that was there
Yeah.
back in the day. And Maslow, by the way, also talked about peak experiences, then plateau
Yeah.
experience. We
Right.
can't stay up on the peak forever.
Right.
So given all that, we probably want to open up some questions to your audience
Oh, yeah.
and see if they want to pick your brain a little more on.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So please go ahead and engage in that chat function. We can see it there. Pat can kind of monitor it and feed some questions to me. I see one from Ellen talking about how I considered making it an audiobook. Um, and she's a graduate of, I believe that's the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. And now she's an NBC HWC certified coach. Yay. And I really enjoy audiobooks that I can read so that I can review material. I'd like to get there eventually. It will also be available in PDF form for people to download through the publisher. But I'd like to get it into the Kindle version. I'd like to get it into the audio version also eventually.
Yeah, I hope your publisher can help with that. I will tell you, my books finally got on audio through Norton, and I don't know whose voice it is, but my Getting Naked book is me, and I did it in my closet, which is kind of funny with the sound equipment. You can do it. I mean, so yes, Ellen, that would be a good thing, because I've had people who listen to my book on audio while they're reading it. It's like I'm reading to them. Michael could do a great job with that. So that'll be a consideration, I know, coming up. So there's Carrie says, where can we order the book?
Yeah. So what's going on right now is the book has been, working, literally at the printers. And I got my author's copy, like I said, the pretty weighty thing, I'll tell you. But it will be in stock very soon. The best way to get it is directly through the publisher at wholeperson.com. I believe someone said that when they looked it up on Amazon, it was saying that it would be available the 1st of August, but we'll see how, printing and supplying and transportation really works. But it's on its way. It says you can pre-order it soon. So just kind of ride the Whole Person website. Also take a look at our own website, realbalance.com. We will splash it all over our homepage and put a direct link there as soon as it is available to be ordered.
Yeah, patience. It's coming. Yeah. It's done. It's printed. It will be there.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great to get it in my hand, though, I'll tell you.
Oh, I can't imagine. Must be thrilled.
Yeah.
So who else has a question or a comment that we have 17 to 10 days here. So
there's one from Dana.
Oh, what practical applications does the book have to support a newish, I love that, a newish coach to hone skills?
Yeah, well, I appreciated the little plug that you put in there, Pat, saying that you felt like it was a book that could reach both the new coach and the more masterful coach.
Yeah.
I would hope that, it allows the new coach to think big and to think of themselves as having the potential to become a masterful coach, to see kind of the whole possibility laid out before them. And also, quite frankly, especially the sections, whether it's a section on how to be or what to do, I really do my best to make all of this very practical, very applicable. And so even the new coach can take a look at it and hopefully do it well, right from the beginning.
Yeah. I will tell you, Dana, I order a lot of books. I have a book addiction and I wish I'd stop it, but I read some of them, and Michael's book is going to be one you want to have ready to pull off the shelf, put in little sticky notes. It's readable, but it's applicable and useful. And as soon as it's available, you need to get it. So.
Yeah, and it's really a companion book to my first book, Wellness Coaching for Lasting Lifestyle Change.
Right.
And in that book, I did not go as deeply into coaching skills because I felt like Well, there's all these great books out there already, by the coactive coaching people, by that Pat Williams guy. There's already stuff out there that's, covering coaching skills pretty good. But in this one, I did go right after all the basic coaching skills and show how they apply especially in health and wellness coaching.
Well, I will tell you personally, over the years, I've been to the National Wellness Conference with you. And by the way, people don't know that we live in the same town, and we've had this Venn diagram of our life where we're connected.
That's about right.
You kept telling me wellness coaching. I thought, well, that's kind of part of life coaching, or it's a niche. You have been masterful in creating it as a separate, I could almost say, industry. And if I was reinventing myself as a coach today, I'd probably want to go for wellness somewhere in there, because I want people and the earth, people on the earth and people and the earth to be more well.
Yeah.
So you've done a big service for that.
Well, it really has become the fastest growing, biggest, hottest part of coaching. I was happy to co-create, along with Rachel Dungan from Ireland, the ICF community of practice focused on health and wellness coaching, and did that for its first 3 years. And it really was a community practice that grew very fast. And the interest is there all around the world. I've done 6 trainings in China on health and wellness coaching. I've done trainings in Brazil and Ireland and the UK and so forth. And the reality is everybody needs this.
Yeah.
Because lifestyle is the biggest determinant of our health, when we look at population health. And, for example, the diabetes rate in China is the same as in the United States, somewhere around 10 or 11%. But you're talking 10 or 11% of 1.4 billion people.
Right.
So there's 100 million people in China with diabetes. And that's just, one example. And what's really exciting is the connection with lifestyle medicine. We're seeing people achieving complete reversal of their diabetes through lifestyle change and improvement. We're seeing people reverse heart disease through lifestyle improvement. I mean, no guarantees, not saying it's easy, but you take a look at the work of Dean Ornish and other people like that. And, if that client wants to do that, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier with a coach.
Yes.
Because that's a big, massive change on every level.
Yeah.
And yet with that kind of support, you can do it.
Yeah. Formulaic information doesn't work. Everybody can go on Google and find out what to eat, what to do, best exercise, but most people don't do it. Most people join gyms and by March they're done, right? So a coach is not the one that kicks you with a velvet boot, but they are somebody that says, who do you need to become, or who you're wanting to become to have the life you want?
I love how you just put that, because one of the things that I came across and include in the book is the research on health behavior change that lasts.
Yes.
And first of all, we don't know much about it. There isn't enough work on it.
Right.
But what this big consortium found was that there were 2 major factors that allowed people to really be successful at lasting change. And one of them is exactly what you just said. It's a shift in self-concept.
Yeah.
Who do I think I am?
Right.
That was number one. That was really powerful, because it wasn't just, I feel better about myself, self-esteem and so forth. That might have been part of it, but it was a different identification. Now I think of myself as, a health conscious person. I think of myself as a runner, a bicyclist, an outdoorsman, whatever it might be. And that different way of seeing yourself is huge. And the second was community support. Not surprising. Yeah.
So Michael, we have somebody that actually posted it in Q&A, not chat. So I found this from Petra Sven. What do you see for coaching jobs? It seems that a health degree is required, preferably RN. An advanced degree in something else doesn't matter. Your thoughts for coaches who don't want to be entrepreneurs and yet would like to coach people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I would say of all the coaches that we've trained, only about a quarter to a third end up being the independent entrepreneurial coach. That is definitely a different thing, and something that people maybe graduate to after they've worked somewhere else for a few years. But a place to start, there is a lot happening in health and wellness coaching. There's a lot of companies that are hiring people. And a health degree is not always necessary. If you're looking at a disease management company, they often are looking for someone who can do disease management, where it's a combination of medical consultation and behavioral, coaching. And that's where they are going to ask for the RD or the RN or someone like that. But the vast majority of health wellness coaches don't have a healthcare background, or if they do, it's not at that higher level. And quite frankly, I think that's what we want to see. We want
Yes.
to see a lot of coaches available at a pay scale level where it's not an MD, it's not a PhD, it's not somebody way up high. It's somebody that companies can afford, and yet it's a way to meet the needs of a lot of people.
Yep.
So what's starting to happen is we're seeing coaches being hired by, insurance companies, probably number one. Also by wellness programs that are part of corporations. They're often now individualizing some of their wellness programming by hiring coaches. Also, the really exciting thing is that primary care is even starting to hire coaches, even ones that don't have a medical degree, but to be part of the coaching team, part of the treatment team, which is really ironic.
Yeah, it's a nice shift, and I think it's proven its worth. And your book is going to be going down in history, well, current, but history. So my last question to you would be: we all know that there's going to be a time that we aren't around anymore, like Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers. They're not around anymore. Where do you want your impact to be at? Not your living legacy, but your post legacy. What would you like to have happen in this field if you could look from wherever you are in the future to what needs to occur, what you want to occur?
Yeah, that's quite a question.
It is, isn't it? It was a long one. It wasn't a coaching question. It was an interview question.
Uh-huh.
So what would you like the lasting impact to be 50 years from now? Let's put it that way.
I would like to have the impact be that health and wellness coaching is practiced so well by so many people that it has earned the respect of its fellow professions that it works with, so that a medical treatment team is really going to want to coach on their team.
Yeah.
So that psychologists and other people don't feel, and fitness professionals and all, don't feel threatened by coaches, but they see the value of them and how they can work together.
Beautiful.
To me, it's really about individualizing wellness.
Yeah.
And also, I think the other big message here is you can't just expect coaching alone to save the day. Right. Holistic, comprehensive wellness programs, whether it's in a community, and there needs to be a lot more community wellness, not just corporate wellness.
Right.
But even in a corporation or a company or even a small company, with the more comprehensive they are, combining education, combining access, combining individualized work with a coach, I think it's going to really carry the day and hopefully really improve, public health, population health,
Wow.
planetary health.
I'm glad we recorded that because that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So one last comment. I think you're looking at the top of the hour here. So
Yeah.
Carrie Bell says, I'm looking forward to this book. I have Michael's first book and his second, and it is the reason I became a coach. I've had challenges with most clients due to the pandemic. Yep, it's been magnified. Everything that was got magnified. I've noticed they seem to have the what's the point thinking that Michael spoke of earlier. I'd love to deepen my skills to be able to help them.
Oh, that's great. Well, I really appreciate hearing that, Carrie. Thank you. I'm glad you're getting to coaching. You've got those kind of desires. You're going to be a great coach. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, this pandemic will be gone. I've recorded a lot of webinars on this pandemic, but you know what we've had is the same human problems got magnified.
Mhm.
And we also learned intricacies of communication that we didn't have before. People, I mean, we can go on and on about this, but there's ways people learn to take care of themselves a little better that we don't want to change.
Yeah.
Even when we're back to the new normal, whatever that is. So,
Well, Pat, I really want to thank you for the interview. I really appreciated our conversation, and I'm just thrilled to be able to get this book out there and share it with the world.
It's awesome.
So,
great accomplishment. Thanks for letting me be the interviewer. And I appreciate this. So make it a great rest of the day.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for attending, and be sure to check Real Balance out at realbalance.com with the new classes that we're going to be offering here. And our next webinar, we're going to skip August, going to take a little time off in the summer and come back on September 17th. And we'll let you know what the topic is as we get closer to that date. So sign up for our newsletter, stay informed, check out my blog at either on our homepage, there's a connection to it there, or at realbalancewellness.wordpress.com. And give us a call. We do a lot of career coaching, you might say, over the phone with people. And check us out at the website. All our information is right there. So I want to honor everybody's time and wrap it up here. Again, thanks so much, Pat. Really appreciate it. As always. Thanks, everybody. Coach on.